Hello, here we are.
Hey, here we
A
are.
little bit of
Once again.
rebranding. Got to change it from buttoned up because there was just too much going on with that. So we're now damage check.
Yeah, damage check, Still keeping with the gaming lingo, but also slightly specific to Destiny, which makes me happy. Make brain chemical happy.
Love it. So how have you been? Been pretty good?
I have been very good. I've had a very productive week in playing video games. Let me tell you what. I only beat one game this week, but I'm like cataclysmically close to beating like three others. To where basically after we're gonna finish this podcast, I'm gonna probably go beat two games tonight. I'm very excited about it.
That is exciting. I didn't play anything new. I've been getting back into the addiction of RuneScape. So I have that going for me, but I manage it. But I can say, or I do have a question for you already. Then,
Sure.
is one of those games Tears? Because I need you to finish Tears.
No, it's not. I regret to inform you, it's not.
Before the Game Awards, we are gonna have to get you on that grind. I know that it might be a slog right now because this. I mean, we've had a banger year.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So I don't blame you, but at the same time,
Let's see. You know what?
you have to pencil it in.
We're gonna decide this right now. What I'm gonna beat it. So okay, right now I am currently playing on my playing list on my GG app. I currently have Sea of Stars, Cassette Beasts, Talus Principle, and what was the other one? I didn't add it in here yet. Oh, Song of Nunu. So Talus Principle.
And you still haven't even played Chance of Sinnar, which you got me on to.
I know, man. I'm so behind on games, but
I don't blame you. It is a banger.
But it's okay. I beat In Sound Mind, which was like my Halloween game of choice this year. And I could talk about that a little bit more in just a minute. But yeah, so Song of Nunu and Talus Principle, I should have beat today. If not today, like early tomorrow, I'll have them beat. And then I could probably sideline Cassette Beast for right now.
Okay, well, but before beating Song of Nunu, how do you feel about it? Like, is it? I mean, you can give me a 1 to 10 rating, but also composition stuff. How do you feel about the game overall? Because I'm interested.
I feel pretty damn positive about it, honestly. I would say so. I typically do a 5-point scale, so 1 through 5. I would currently give it probably a 4. And I think the only thing that I would like knock a point off on it for is just that it is simple. Like it's basically like kind of like a adventure puzzler, but with like slight beat 'em up mechanics every once in a while. And the beat 'em up mechanics are definitely good. Like they're solid, but they're also just kind of like simple. Like there's no like real difficulty. There's no like skill to it. It's just I'm Willump and I'm just gonna beat the shit out of some wolves and call it a day. Like that would be the only thing that I would mark as a negative right now.
Do you mean simple, like it's a little too easy? Is it too easy that it's daunting, or is it like, does it feel like menial tasks, or does it feel like you're engaged for the most part, or what?
I guess I would say I'm engaged for the most part because the fighting sections don't really happen all that often. Like the really good stuff is the puzzles and the environment, because there's like environment puzzles. There's puzzles that you do with Nunu's like little flute thing. So there's a lot of cool stuff going on there. But yeah, it's split up by like having some of these combat sections, and I guess it's just simple in the way of like it's easy. It's just a couple of wolves. You just mash the smashy button and the wolves die. Okay. And then you move on to the next puzzle. So it almost does feel like in a way where I'm like, did we need this? Like, did we need this combat section to be in this game to like make it a full thing? Because I feel like the puzzles are justification enough. But at the same time, I'm sure it has to exist because, slight spoilers, this is like 10-20 minutes into the game. Lissandra's like the main bad guy, and so I imagine you're gonna like duke it out with Lissandra at some point. And that's another big thing is if you are a fan of League of Legends lore, even like mildly, like even if you just know the characters, it's got some pretty hype moments. Like when
that's exciting.
At this point, I've already seen like 3, not including Lissandra, like 3 like cameo moments of like champions from the game, and every single one of them I'm like damn, this is cool as fuck.
I
Like,
feel like that's a big selling point for these spin-off games for League, right? Because we've spent 12 or so or more years with these characters, and we kind of know from the lore. I mean, I guess if you're a lore head, you might read into it a little bit more, or there might be videos on it, but you have to really go digging deep. But you can pick up a little bit just based on voice lines and stuff like that. Like he's from Noxus, so is this other guy. So, and then they're brothers. I see that in the dialogue that they might have, and then you get you get your games like the Ruined King, you get the Song of Nunu, and so you get a little bit more deeper backstory to these characters that you've already grown to love, at the very least, because you played it for so long. I feel like that might be the selling point to most of these, because I don't think any of these are bangers, but I don't think any of them are really bad either.
I will say, I think that this one has the potential to be a banger. Like, it has a potential for me to basically say, even if you're not a League of Legends fan, you should play this. Like,
oh, for sure.
Whereas the other ones, like, I don't know if you're not a League of Legends fan, I'm not going to tell you to go play Ruined King, right? Like, that's definitely for like a more deep cut League fan. Mage Seeker came out earlier this year, and I heard that was pretty good. But even then, I don't know if that's something I would go out and be like, oh, you should play this. Whereas this is the first one, I think, just because the writing's actually really good, the presentation is like really good. Like, it's just a really solid adventure game.
I think
that's the other thing.
Go ahead, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think that's the other thing with like the character cameos, is that it's not just like, oh look, there's that character. Okay, bye. That's all we needed from you, was just to show up.
Like they have presence and an entrance or something.
Yeah, they have like an entrance and presence, and like they're part of the story, and they're helping you out along the way and everything. Like, it's really, really cool. You know, I don't want to spoil any of the reveals, even though some of them were in trailers. I would say you could go into this and like, the first big reveal of like one of the champs coming through, I popped off. I was like, hell yeah, dude, this is cool as hell.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was kind of disappointed to see so much, and this is a me problem. It's not the game's fault, but with the I can't remember what it's called, but the Echo game, Convergence, I believe it's called.
Yeah.
I personally was a little disappointed that there was so much combat in it. Like, I watched the trailer, I watched some gameplay, and it seems, and I even commented on a video of somebody doing a playthrough, and I was like, hey, is there too much combat? He's like there's a lot of combat, and I'm like, that's unfortunate for me, because I was thinking it would be such a cool, interesting game if it were more platformer heavy, like Prince of Persia or Celeste, because Echo's got his dash, he's got his rewind and his time stop. So I feel like it would be really much cooler if there were like hazards where you needed to uniquely use rewind or uniquely use time freeze, instead of doing those two enemies. I don't need to be fighting personally. I understand that might be an attraction to some people, but not for me.
No, actually, I'm like 1,000% with you. So this is actually a perfect segue into. I said that I beat In Sound Mind this week, right? I beat it yesterday.
I might have to look that up while you talk about it, just so I can get a frame of reference.
So basically, I'll kind of give you a quick elevator pitch. Psychological horror. You basically play as a therapist who is reliving memories and sequences of some of your patients. And there's like a conspiracy that kind of links them all together and everything. The story is really good. The presentation is really good. The music is really good. All that stuff is really good. But I'm a little down on it. All those things I would have almost been close to giving it a 5, or at least a high 4. But it just felt the need to shove in this combat that is just not fun. It is legitimately like 20-year-old gunplay combat. Like, it feels like you're playing the original Half-Life.
What are we doing with that? Why are we doing this in this day and age where we shove these gameplay elements that like do the developers think that they're missing something? Because I feel like a lot of players notice this stuff that we don't need it.
That's kind of what I'm starting to wonder. I'm like, this game would have been perfect if you would have just taken that combat out. You already had like the environmental puzzles, the horror stuff, avoiding, the big baddies in the room and all that kind of stuff. Why did we decide that we needed to shoot stuff like that doesn't really like lean into any of the other aspects the game is really good at?
Right.
And kind of same thing with your convergence thing. It's like, why did we need a bunch of combat? Why couldn't we have just made a really dope like time puzzle platformer?
Right.
And same thing with even Nunu, where it's like I could have just done with the environmental puzzles and all the fun little stuff like that. I didn't need to beat up random wolves every 15 to 20 minutes where I'm like, I'm gonna beat up this wolf. All right, let's go back to doing puzzles now. Like, why do we need to beat up the wolf? It doesn't make any sense.
Right. The thing with convergence might be a little bit different because it's probably combat forward, right? Versus like you're saying this game was good and then they all of a sudden there's shooting a little bit. Versus like convergence,
not even a little bit.
Oh, it's quite a bit.
It's like quite a bit. Where I think in the beginning it was definitely a lot less. Where it was like, okay, I'm getting a shootout section every like 30 minutes or something.
I mean, I'm
like that.
watching gameplay right now, so I can see what you're talking about. That like it doesn't seem like there's very much shooting. It seems like a lot of puzzles slash just eeriness of just searching through the area with the flashlight and stuff like that. I mean, this is an hour in, and I'm kind of just scrubbing through it. I haven't really seen any shooting or anything too crazy yet.
Yeah, first hour or two, you're not really getting a ton of it. But then by the time essentially there's like 5 worlds, I would say, like 5 levels essentially that you go to. By the time you get to like the 3rd level, it's just like non-stop, like every 5 to 10 minutes you're getting hit with enemies. And that's when I started to
be like, you don't feel like it needed to be paced that way. You think that it was fine just continuing on that
100%.
Yeah,
just keep it on like the more eerie puzzle horror like aspect. Like I don't know why they decided that they needed to have this stuff. So that's why like I end up, my final review on it, I would give it a 3 out of 5. And even then, like if I was just grading the gunplay and the combat, it would be like a 2 out of 5. But the presentation and all the other stuff surrounding it is so good that it pulls it up to that 3 out of 5. Like it's got music by the Living Tombstone. They're a group that do a bunch of like video game covers. Like one of my favorites they did was Jump Up Superstar cover.
Oh my god. You just triggered one of the happiest memories of my whole life. Like I cannot express to you, a little tangent, I cannot express to you how many times Sirens and I have listened to that song. And who did you say? Hold on, because that might be the one that we absolutely love, the cover. Because
the Living Tombstone.
Because now I'm intrigued here. Yes, it is. It's our favorite one. That's the one we've listened to hundreds of times. Because they they have a little animatic with it where Mario's like jumping in the air with Pauline and he's like throwing his hat at her and stuff. It's super cute.
Yeah, so they did the music for this game. And let me tell you, like it's banger o'clock. Like it is really good music. I think there was one song in it that I was like, this is fine, but the rest I'm like immediately got added to my playlist. And so that like all that aspect and the story and everything pulled it forward. And I just really wish I really want to know like why did they decide we needed to shoot random things, like the game just didn't need it. So I don't know. I mean, it might just be one of those things where, surveys say that players are interested in this kind of stuff, but I don't know. Like I do understand the importance of like listening to a lot of those surveys. Obviously, like billions of dollars go into like dataing out like what do people want, not even just with video games, but with everything. But at the same time, I'm just like, if you've got a vision for what you want to do, just do it. The people will come. If you land that vision, the people will come. I don't know if bolting on random things that, surveys said do well necessarily actually helps your game or your product necessarily.
Right. Just be what it is and not what people want, because sometimes people don't even know what they want. Let's be real.
Exactly. James Cameron could have cut out all 45 minutes of that water section in Way of Water, but he said, fuck you, I'm James Cameron. I'm going to have a 45-minute section of just water effects.
Love that.
And I love that about the man, Stay true to yourself. Stay true to your vision. You want 45 minutes of water effects, you do that shit.
Okay, so 3 out of 5 for that game. What was the other game you've been playing?
Talos Principle I've been working on slowly, just doing puzzles here and there. We talked about this a little bit, so I won't really go too far into this. Really good game. I'm really excited to play the second one. I feel like the second one's going to be able to land even more on a lot of the concepts that they put forward. I think the puzzles in Talos Principle are good. They're serviceable. They're nothing that I necessarily would like. I put it this way: I'm not playing the game for the puzzles necessarily. I'm playing it more so for like kind of the lore and the story that's kind of going on in the background, and the whole like all the philosophical questions it asks you. You know, in the game it examines a lot of like older philosophy from like Greece, Egyptian, and like Middle Ages. And I find all that stuff really fascinating, especially when linking to like consciousness and all that. So there's very ethereal stuff, you know.
For sure.
But yeah, I'm pretty excited to beat that. I'm like probably like less than 20-30 puzzles from beating that. There's like a super ultra 100% ending. I'm just gonna look that up. I'm not gonna do all this extra stuff.
Fair, totally fair.
You know, I'm ready to get into the second one. The second one I will probably play fully, but the first one, you know, we're talking about a game that's, I want to say like 11 years old at this point. Like I'm cool with just looking up the like ultra mega ending, you know. I don't necessarily need to do all that myself.
Absolutely. I mean, I do that with some things, and I've even told myself a million times with certain games, especially on stream, that I'm going to get back to them to go 100%, and I want to, but it's like, especially again with a year like this, just a bunch of bangers. We got to keep moving. I still have yet to play Pikmin 4, and I'm the Nintendo guy.
Yeah, come on, man. You're failing, and you're calling to be Nintendo's biggest defender, you know?
I mean, dude, I heard Pikmin 4 slaps. I heard it's really good. So I do want to check it out still. I'm going to try and maybe get it before the end of the year. Maybe I can get it on like cheaper at GameStop or something. Or a used copy. Yeah, so those are the games you've been playing. I have not been playing anything besides like your run-of-the-mill live service, League, Destiny, RuneScape. That's typically what you're going to get out of me. But I'm, but when the big hitters come out, I might be dabbling. Like next week, we got Mario RPG, which can transition us into one of our topics for today, which is Mario RPG. So you played the original, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Have you beat the original?
No, I played it using less than legal resources. And I don't think I ever got around to actually beating it.
Gotcha. So I played it a lot as a kid, but I used it as we do as kids, a lot, especially a lot of those games from back then. I used it as just kind of my playground, my sandbox. I never cared to beat it. I would go back through and beat the Goombas from level 1 all the way to as far as I ever got, and I never cared about progressing. I just would run around and fight the same old enemies as a kid. That was enough joy for me. But I mean, I've seen some of the trailers on it. I think it looks beautiful. It looks gorgeous. The music sounds incredible, of course. I think like that it's so funny because some of those images, you know, like those memes where you see like images you can hear and stuff like that. Any screenshot from that game is embedded in my head in that format. I know how like every level sounds. Like the music was so beautifully done that, and it could be comboed with nostalgia, but Nintendo always has just amazing OST. And but I can memorize. I have it all, and so I really just I really hope that everything feels, and I'm sure it will, but I hope that everything feels just the way that I remember. But you know, like when you this happens to me often, when you look, you see like a remake or remaster, like say like Zelda from 64 to when they do like a 3DS remaster or whatever, you're like, oh, this is how it always looked, and then you look back and you're like, oh,
like, oh,
it's
no,
not.
it did not.
but your brain like makes you feel that way. And I seen these screenshots and in these trailers of Mario RPG. I'm like, yeah, that's how it looked. And then I go back and play it. I'm like, oh, it was still amazing for its time. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful game. But it's like my childlike brain back then was just, I don't know. But are you hoping How far did you get? Did you get at least a good portion, like 70% or so through, or?
Yeah, I remember I got a decent portion of the way through. I can't, I wouldn't be able to recall like exact details because it was a pretty long time ago. But I remember getting a decent amount through. And I'm generally excited for the remake. I don't know if I'm going to play it immediately. As with like most Nintendo games, I feel like I'm usually like a late comer on a lot of them.
I just figured this is kind of up your wheelhouse with the Final Fantasy. I don't think they're working with Square this time, obviously, but it's definitely up your wheelhouse. But with the Square Enix roots,
yeah, I think that the core of what it would be missing for me and why I'm not like, oh, I immediately want to go play it is at the end of the day, it is just a Mario game, which means things like story and everything aren't going to be,
right?
Forefront important versus like something like I'm playing right now, like Sea of Stars, where like narrative is a huge part of it. And so I think that's kind of where I'm at, where I haven't beat Sea of Stars yet, and I'm probably still a decent ways off because it's a semi-long game. I think it's like 30 hours or so. So if I was to make a decision next week of which one I would want to play, Mario Remake or a Sea of Stars, I'm probably going to go Sea of Stars.
That's fair.
But I do want to get to Remake more than probably any other Nintendo title is towards the top of my list, other than like Zelda, so that I can beat it and be done with it and never have to think about it ever again,
You're going to love it, I promise.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm gonna like it. That's how it goes with a lot of these Nintendo games. Usually I'm late to them, but then once I play them, I'm like, oh yeah, that was really good. I am very excited to hear the music again though, because the soundtrack for Mario Remake or for Super Mario RPG in general is phenomenal.
Absolutely.
So I'm very excited for that.
That's probably my biggest thing about it, because I haven't beat it either. I've seen it speedran and stuff many a time, so I know all about it, but I just that's what I'm looking forward to most. I hope they don't change too much, but I wouldn't mind if they did, because I want something fresh. I wouldn't mind that at all.
I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if this is semi-testing the waters to get Mario back into the RPG. I think this combined with the Thousand Year Door port / remake, whatever you want to call it, I think this comboed with that is Nintendo essentially kind of testing the waters to say, do we want to get back into the RPG market with Mario? Is it worth it? Is there interest for it? Which I think the resounding answer is going to be yes. So I would not be surprised with like Switch 2 or whatever the next Super Switch, whatever the next Nintendo console is going to end up being. I would not be surprised if we end up seeing a Mario RPG style title, whether it'll be Paper Mario or whether it'll be something more akin to 7 Stars. Who knows? But I definitely think that this is kind of a sign of things to come.
I think that that's a genius move by them, because now they're finally I wasn't that much of a hater of Origami King, but it's not what I asked for. I wanted a Paper Mario title to be the original or Thousand Year Door. I don't want to go anywhere else with it. And the way that they went with Origami King, it was more of a puzzle game, which I didn't hate. And the story, I'm not gonna lie, I don't know if you've played it or beat it, but
I've not. No.
It's a pretty good story. The ending, the way that it kind of like, I think you could transition it into a better media than Mario, a similar theme to the game, but it was pretty good. Again, not what I asked for in terms of gameplay, but I still really enjoyed it. It was a beautiful game, but I agree with you. I think they're finally realizing, oh, people do like these turn-based action RPGs. Like they're very good. And I mean, Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door, and now obviously we know Mario RPG. I always thought Mario RPG went under the wayside, but apparently a lot of people are very excited for this remake. So, not really much else to say about it, but
yeah, I think it was always just a little bit quieter on remake, just because it's less a Nintendo game and it is more of a Square game.
Right.
It is a Mario game, but they barely had, to my knowledge, from what I know, they didn't have a ton to do with it back in the day. It pretty much almost was exclusively like a Square joint, with Mario trappings and Nintendo kind of putting their stamp on it for the SNES. But yeah, I think they're starting to realize that. I think also just in general, they're just starting to realize diversifying Mario is probably the best thing they can do. And also just having more consistent Mario titles, because I do feel like for the first, like after Odyssey, we had like what, 2-3 year gap between like anything Mario coming out. Am I
Besides,
crazy?
like,
Am I
besides
wrong?
like maybe like Rabbids or something, but yeah.
Yeah, other than Rabbids, but once again, that's that's a Ubisoft joint with a Mario skin. And granted, I thought Rabbids was actually pretty good. I'm a fan of those types of games.
I never really got
Um,
into them, but I think I would enjoy them.
Yeah, if you've ever played anything like XCOM or anything like that, they're pretty fun. But it's missing that XCOM flavor of, I name all my operatives after my friends, and so I get really invested in making sure to stay alive.
That's an interesting take on that. I knew a guy who did that with his RPGs, so makes sense.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It adds tension to it because I'm like, no, HP, don't go over there. You're gonna die.
That's fun.
Permadeath's on. You'll be gone forever.
Yeah, not much else there. If you have anything on, actually, you know what? I got something we can move towards. Because I mean, Mario RPG, it is what it is. We're gonna be playing it next week and maybe talking about it, but that's all we really got for now until we get the full thing next podcast.
I've got actually one thing I want to bring up with Mario RPG, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Do you think? Obviously it can't now at this point, but if nominations for Game Awards was going out later, we know it's coming out on Monday, but let's say they were going to go out on like, I don't know, like first week of December. Do you think Mario Remake would have a shot at it? Do you think it would deserve to, being the fact that it is a remake?
I usually don't think remakes deserve it personally. That's just my thing with it. Like people are saying like throwing out Resident Evil 4. I know it's a classic. I know people like it. I personally don't even like. This is hot take, like steamy hot. I don't even like Resident Evil. I think they are so boring, to be honest.
I can see it.
I understand. We don't have to get into it, but I just think the movement is so clunky and it's not what I want. I understand that that's just how the game is, but it's one of those like, well, then I guess I just don't like that genre. I don't like turning super slow, and like I feel like if you're a guy now, obviously I'm not trying to put realism in my zombie game, but at the same time, turning really slowly does not feel fun. And aiming, I don't know. I never really liked it. I just couldn't get into it. But for example, even despite the remake of Resident Evil 4 being so widely loved, I don't even think that would deserve a spot, just because you had your shot 10 years ago or whatever, however long it's been, So
that's fair. I fall in a very similar camp of especially in a year like this, I'm like, let's not give it to remakes,
Right.
Let's give it to some of these new ideas, new titles that have come out. I think in a slower year, I could maybe see some arguments for Resident Evil 4 specifically, but in this type of year, I'm like, nah.
You know what? How about this? How about we just make it a freaking category at this point? Because there's a remake. There's like 10 remakes every freaking year.
Honestly,
best remake,
best reimagining, I would say, right? Because then you can kind of put remakes, remasters, ports. Like you can put a lot of stuff in that category.
Exactly.
Honestly, yeah.
Because that's we're getting a lot of that. That's what we're mostly getting, and it's like I like they're talking about, this is like the fourth time The Last of Us has came out, which is fine. It's a banger, but it's like, hey, stop. Like, some of them aren't even that old. Some of them are like 8 years old. It's like, dude, we still have the game. I don't know. That's just how I see it. But yeah, I don't think that it deserves a spot as Mario RPG, no matter how good it is, and no matter how, because I mean, what are they doing? They're not innovating the space. They're not. I mean, I'm sure it's going to be incredible. Game of the year for a remake just seems so move over. I don't know. I don't like that.
Move over your senior. It's junior's turn. So since we're on the topic of Game Awards, let me ask you, kind of recapping on 2 weeks ago. Do you still stand by that you think Zelda is going to get Game of the Year?
100%.
100%. See, I'm not so confident.
I have zero doubts that Zelda will take it.
The Joystick Awards just happened. Golden Joystick Awards just happened like yesterday or 2 days ago, and Baldur's Gate swept.
So that's the only game. That's the only game that I think could beat it, in my opinion. And and then a close third, obviously, being Spider-Man. I think that those are the only 3 even contenders. So there's going to be a lineup of 6, but let's be real, there's only 3.
Yeah,
and honestly, there's only 2. I don't think I do. I mean, I personally think that Tears beats it just because it's not as in the pocket as Baldur's Gate. Like, Baldur's Gate might be the better game, but is it more widely spread? First off, it doesn't have as many sales as Tears of the Kingdom, which doesn't always matter. That doesn't matter. I'm just saying that Baldur's Gate being and we talked about this, but like Baldur's Gate being PC and PlayStation only or something like that.
Yeah, I think Xbox. I think they announced
or
Xbox comes out. Yeah,
okay.
I think the Xbox version comes out in like a month or something.
So either way, it's on 1 or 2 consoles, and then Switch Tears is only on the Switch, and so being Switch is like, I don't think it's as household now as like Nintendo might have been years ago, but I mean, if there is a console war now, a 3-way console war, they're losing it, I would presume. I don't know. Like, Switch is they're very successful, but it seems still pretty niche. Like, get into a Discord full of gamers, and they're all like, mostly they're playing on PC. Let alone they might have a PS5 or something for those exclusives, but you don't hear a lot of people talking about Switch. I mean, maybe the gamers do, but either way. So my point is that it's very niche. In terms of its console, but the game itself is not. Baldur's Gate has a little bit more widespread out of the console, so it's like on PlayStation, and it's going to be on Xbox, and it is on PC. But the gameplay itself, the actual game, is a little more in the pocket than Tears of the Kingdom. I think anybody, any age, can pick up Tears of the Kingdom and have a good time with it. Baldur's Gate is for a very strategy-heavy person. Like, even myself, I like that kind of stuff. I literally consume Dungeons and Dragons content daily, and I just can't get into the game. Doesn't mean it's bad. I think it's one of the best games ever created, and I think just on the principle alone of, hey, we see your $70 raise and we're going back to 60, like, that alone is what put it on the market initially, and then being as good as it is, and then very not just in good as it is in terms of the game, but like I mean, you've coded, you've been seeing how paths work, the fact that every decision actually takes you to a different path is,
it's insane.
The brain inside that game is insane. So technically it's probably the better game, but overall, in terms of accessibility, I think Tears of the Kingdom still wins it that way. And I think you might get a better, rich story out of it, out of Baldur's Gate, because think about it, Baldur's Gate is Dungeons and Dragons. It's going to be an incredibly rich story, and it's your story because it's the way you chose to do things. So it's definitely going to be better. But I just think Tears is just, I think it was a beautiful game, and it's more accessible. That's why I think it's going to take it, not because it's the technically better game.
Okay. I think the only counter I would have into why I think Baldur's still takes it, regardless of those things, is because of the people that vote on it. I think if it was a majority players choice vote, I do think that Tears would probably have a much better chance. But I think because it is majority voted on by the critics, I think it's like 80% critics, 20% player vote or something like that. I think that critics are going to end up giving it to Baldur's for many of the reasons we already discussed. But I think another big one is just Breath of the Wild, got its flowers already, I guess, in a way. And granted, Tears of the Kingdom is a different game. But I think a lot of people are going to look at it as, we already gave Zelda its flowers a few years ago. Let's give it to this new thing. Not just because of that reason, but also because it is an achievement in gaming, in reality, kind of for the reasons you said, like the amount of pathing, the story, the production value, like, you name it, like, Baldur's Gate delivers it in basically spades.
I mean, you look at something like Baldur's Gate, and while I don't really care for the gameplay because I can't sit down for long enough to enjoy most of it, I know that that's a game that's going to make me cry. Now, with Zelda, you got to get all the tears, but it did make me cry a little bit, but it's not going to be the same as the feelings I would get from Baldur's Gate. So I think you're definitely being moved much more. And if you enjoy that rich story and narrative, then you're going to get that out of Baldur's Gate. So, I mean, you might be absolutely right. Um, I wouldn't say one deserves it over the other. I think they both excel massively in their things, and I think Baldur's Gate might be the better game if you are the type of person to play both, then Baldur's Gate should win. But if you're just like you said, the player, the people's kind of choice, I think that you're gonna get Tears of the Kingdom, because I just can't imagine some random 40-year-old who doesn't really play these strategy games. They'd be like, what is it? Why am I dice rolling in a game that should be doing that in the calculations? It just doesn't feel fluid if they're not used to that style, like Divinity and stuff like that.
Yeah, Divinity.
I'm looking up now too, to kind of go into it. I'm looking up now, in a world of, like, we're getting something so different here, right? So like going back to 2017, Breath of the Wild cleaned up, but it wasn't against anything crazy. Now these games it's going up against other good games. There was only 5 nominees. I thought it was 6, but there's only 5 nominees.
They upped it to 6, I believe, in 2020. So it is 6 now.
Okay, so back then the 5 games were Breath of the Wild, Horizon Zero Dawn, which is a fantastic game, Persona 5, PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds, and Super Mario Odyssey. All bangers, but I would never put any of them above Breath of the Wild.
I mean, I'd put 3 of those games above personally, but that's obviously me.
I think Horizon might have a richer story.
Yes.
And PUBG,
which is why I loved it.
PUBG swept the nation, or the world. I mean, that was the biggest game since CS:GO. You know what I mean? So I would say that, but it's like, does it? I don't know. It's gonna be hard for me to ever see a multiplayer game get Game of the Year, other than something that sweeps the world like Halo did, because it's just.
2016 Overwatch did win.
That's fair.
Which I think
Overwatch also kind of swept up a little bit. I don't know. Overwatch, God, I have such a love-hate for that game, because I love the concept so much, and I think it could go so far. That's a whole different day. That's a whole different day.
That's a.
I could talk about my beef
Honestly,
with
I'm
Overwatch
down though, because I got a lot of beef with Overwatch to dig up. All right, I'm down. Let's dig up the grave.
We'll do it. We'll do an Overwatch day one day.
Okay, cool. I'm super down.
But yeah, so I mean, Brett, like, if you out of those 5, what would you think should win instead of Breath of the Wild? Because and remember, this is 2017, when this is the first open world Zelda. I mean, this isn't like now, if the third one came out, you'd be like, okay, we've seen it. But like, this is like, that was pretty amazing that year.
Out of all those 5 games, for me personally, like my personal taste, I would have given it to Horizon Zero Dawn. I'm super into that franchise now, though, like since that game. So obviously that's my bias. Me looking at it from a more, like, I guess, subjective, what do I think should have won from an industry perspective? I think Breath of the Wild necessarily was the wrong choice. I would make an argument for PlayerUnknown, even though that I'm not a huge fan of that. I mean, look at how it's affected the world that we have right now. Battle royales are now just like the thing. Granted, they're kind of falling out of favor slowly, but the past 5-6 years have been battle royale because of that. And so I do think I could make an argument for it. To your point, I'd be surprised if a multiplayer game ever won over something like a Breath of the Wild. I think 2016 you could make a little bit more of an argument for Overwatch, just because it was a quote unquote lighter year. I mean, I would have still given it to Titanfall 2, because I think that's one of the best games ever made, but looking at the nominees, I'm like, I can see why you would end up landing.
You know what's funny about Titanfall 2? I hear such amazing things about how good it is. If it was so good, why did they have to shut it down? And why does everyone say that it's so amazing, but no one ever played it? I liked it too, but I'm in the same camp. I'm just asking why you think that is, because I loved that game, but I never played it.
It got sent out to die. I mean, it got sandwiched quite literally like 5 days apart. Either way you split it, past or future, between a Battlefield and a Call of Duty. It just got sent out to die. Titanfall, it could have been and is one of the best first-person shooters ever. It's still not going to be able to compete with those two titans. I think now both those games have fallen out of favor a lot more. And I think you could see one slide in there like Titanfall 2 or Titanfall 3. Please, God, please. Well,
Titanfall 2 is coming back. They just started bringing it back.
Yeah, they did some updates and everything, which actually I've been playing it again because of that. I do like a few matches a week now.
How are you finding that time? That is insane. Because you're also playing like 7. Yeah, it's just like you're also on like 7 single players right now as well.
I'm going to be honest. I've been playing way too many video games lately. I kind of told myself like, it's the end of the year. I just want to like burn through.
I know it sounds
as much of my backlog as possible.
All I want you to do, even if you have to just like watch it, and if you're watching it, you got to pay attention to it before the Game Awards, before December 7th. You have to beat Tears. Not even beat it. Just do the Tears. Just do the memories.
All right, I promise you right now, I will have it done before Game Awards.
You know what's funny? And I'm hyping it up, and it's gonna be like you're gonna be like, I like that. That's all it's gonna be. You're just gonna be like, that's cool.
Even if you didn't hype it up, that would quite literally be my exact reaction of like, that was good.
I don't see. Okay. I don't know, man. I'm not even super attached to that stuff, but it's almost like I get sentimental about it. It was just a beautiful way to write I can't say, but what they wrote in for those memories, and I thought it was beautiful.
It's tough because I kind of came to this realization that I am a past Legend of Zelda fan anymore. I cannot call myself a Legend of Zelda fan anymore because the past 3 titles, kind of technically 4 titles, haven't really done a lot for me. I'm not saying they're bad, but just for me as a player, I'm just like, yeah, that was an experience.
See, that's crazy to me because like for me, games are meant to be played right now, and then if you have a good narrative, you got a good narrative. Breath of the Wild, I didn't really care about what was happening. I think it's interesting. I mean, you got this long dead warrior, or sleeping warrior in this case, that is coming back from the grave. He's 100 years out. There's kind of like this time thing where it's like, and then he comes out. Oh, it finds out that you were the hero. You were the one that was supposed to change it, because there's always time in Zelda games, and I love the way that they play with time. But I didn't need it. The gameplay itself was sufficient enough for me. I could not put it down. And that is 5 years later. I played it this year. 6 years later. I played it this year. Breath of the Wild, not Tears. Breath of the Wild. I played it this year for the first time ever, and I couldn't put it down. And then immediately after I beat it, I got into Tears of the Kingdom. Could not put it down. It's basically the same game, same map, except 3 times as big. And holy crap, I couldn't put it down. So the game itself was enough. Now, Tears of the Kingdom, when you get the memories, there was something really special and sentimental about how I felt about it going into it. So, and that's why I think that, like, I don't know, I maybe you didn't get that addiction factor in on the gameplay. You are a very narrative driven person, so you could play a game that has the shittiest gameplay and a fantastic narrative, and I'm the exact opposite.
Visual novels, where are you at?
And I could play a game that has no narrative, but an amazing. But it's the same way with you. But if you played something that has a very good narrative, shitty gameplay, you could play that. But it helps when the gameplay is also good. Versus where I'm the exact opposite. I would rather have the gameplay, narrative comes second. But like something like Celeste, gameplay is perfect. The narrative is very good. The message is sweet. Yeah. So but I don't know. That's just how I see it. I think that the game was just so addicting, I couldn't put it down.
I think this is actually a very interesting kind of like concept that you propose. I think I'd have to think about it, and this might even make a good topic for another day. But I guess in a way, gameplay to me at this point is kind of a figured out thing. I've not played a game that the gameplay shocked me in a very long time. A very, very long time.
Well, I'm not saying anything shocked me per se. It's
well,
just
sorry.
Is it pulling you in though? Like, because like I'm for example, I'm gonna play like I guarantee I could go play like Mario Wonder. I played it till I beat it, and I still want to dive into it a little bit if I'm gonna speedrun it, but I'm not gonna play it for 100 hours. Whereas Tears of the Kingdom, I could have beaten it in 20, 30 hours. But I didn't. I spent 100, 200, 300 hours in it because I wanted to get every shrine. I wanted to get everything. And I kept wanting more out of my game, and I squeezed it and I juiced it. Now, I know that's not the same for everybody, but I feel like, yeah, you're right. The gameplay is figured out. I mean, there's not much that's wowing me. The last game that fully wowed me on gameplay, just because of how tight it was, nothing innovative, but was Celeste. Celeste is probably one of my favorite games of all time because it's so perfectly tight. The controls are just so perfect. And so that is the last game that really wowed me in terms of gameplay. But Tears of the Kingdom, it's like everything just kind of fits together so well. I don't know.
Yeah, I get that. I think Tears of the Kingdom and like a Breath of the Wild are kind of an encapsulation of a lot of different aspects that are done extremely well, which I think is a part of the appeal of it. But I guess because it leans so heavily on the gameplay factor, I guess that's where I kind of disconnect on a lot of the stuff. Like even not even thinking of like Zelda at this point. I think on a lot of games where it relies on the gameplay to be the propeller. There's definitely some things that I do find enjoyment in. I mean, I play tons of Destiny 2, and like the gameplay is the propeller in that a lot of times. Granted, I'm super into the lore and everything too, but the gameplay is what is propelling me a lot of the time. But I guess when I'm playing, I guess that's why I'm always just kind of like mild on a lot of these like gameplay heavy games, because I'm just kind of like, like
I've seen it.
I played a turn-based strategy game before. I played
That's fair.
A open world adventure game before.
Do you think that maybe you could pull back a little bit then, and like instead of being so critical and more just and just enjoy it for what it is? I'm not talking about Dread. Don't worry.
I mean, honestly, yeah, you're probably right.
Nothing wrong with being critical, but you're
probably right. I could pull back a little bit. But I think that's where I'm getting a lot of the enjoyment out of the games that I play nowadays are the ones that can meld gameplay with presentation. I think that is kind of like where a lot of my interest is right now. And I think that's where some stuff like Zelda kind of fumbles for me, is because I don't feel like the gameplay really leads into the presentation all that much. Like everything's kind of like segmented and disjointed a little bit. Disjointed is probably a little bit of a harsh word for it, but it's a little bit more segmented. If you just want to do the gameplay stuff, you're just doing that. It doesn't really tie into
that's fair. I would say one thing. And yes, Spade, I absolutely adore Cuphead. That's one of my favorite games of all time. That's actually where Ford and I met, through Cuphead DLC, which is pretty interesting. But I would say that for Tears of the Kingdom, I would agree with what you just said. I never thought about it that way. I would agree with what you said, but that is kind of why I think you should do the tiers, because it does marry the gameplay to the story in that moment. When you get the final tier and you see what's going on there, it does marry the gameplay with it. And maybe I'm very easily pleased. But whenever I saw that get married that way, I was like, no way. I had the biggest smile. I'm cheesing ear to ear, and I had a tear in my eye, because I'm like, this is just a special moment. So that's why I want people to do that part of the game, because I actually do agree with you. I think that you're right. That they aren't really married. That you can play the game and not experience the narrative at all. Or not really worry about it, I should say. They're not married. So, like, if you get a shrine, it's not like, Rauru needs you to get so many shrines to give his power back. It's like you can just do the shrines to make yourself stronger, or you could just go beat the game if you want, or you don't have to. You know,
and like somebody like me, a way that could get me to care about shrines more, other than obviously the power upgrade, is like, what if you had like a lore book that's essentially getting slowly filled out, like sentence by sentence?
So that's fair.
Then I'd be like, hell yeah, brother, that's a great tie-in to like give me, because then I'm getting rewarded on multiple fronts.
See, but that's where my reward comes in for a game like that too, and that's why I think it's so widely accessible, because you're exploring this world, which within the world there is lore-rich stuff. There are books in the world. and there are people you can talk to that lead and talk about other things. So like somebody will tell you, hey, if it's nighttime and if the shadow lines up, something happens, and you're like, oh, interesting. You go do that, and then you get more lore out of that. But then on your way to said thing, or let's say you're going towards a tier to get the lore, on your way there, you get, oh, there's a green light. That's a dopamine hit right there. You go get that. You got a shrine. Now you got a number go up. Now heart go up. Now stamina go up. And so like there's all this dopamine that because like you're getting so distracted and addicted to the next thing and the next thing, and then you don't even remember you were going towards that tier. You did 7 other things before you got to that tier. That's why I like it so much. But I do think that I see what you're saying. I think if you got the tiers, maybe you won't be as it's not as. You're not as simple as I am, so you'll be like, that's cool. But I think it'll be that's cool enough, and you'll like it.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I promise you right now, I'll beat it before Game Awards. Like
I said, beating it is one thing. I genuinely think the tiers are the best part of it. Beating it is like another step comboed with the tiers. I think getting the tiers and then beating it is the best way to do it. But
that's probably what I'll end up doing then.
But I don't think beating it is going to like be like, oh, okay, I get it. I think just getting the tiers alone, you'd be like, oh, that's cute.
Yeah, I can't remember. Does it have a difficulty setting?
I don't think so. I think New Game Plus is where you get that.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say if there's a difficulty, I'm just gonna crank that thing down to easy, just burn through everybody. and
no, the difficulty. That's what actually kind of a beautiful thing about the game. I don't like when games give me a difficulty slider. I understand I'm in like the minority here, but games like the From Software games, they don't have a difficulty slider. They want you to play the game the way that they wanted you to play it, and that's why I like Zelda specifically, because whereas Elden Ring is like, it's hard because everything is the way it is, period. So if you grinded, the things that you can come back and things are easier. It's not like that in Zelda. The world scales with you. So if you beat a boss, the whole world scales up. You beat another boss, the whole world scales up. And I actually like that because it feels like you're actually, no matter where you go, things are a little bit harder because it's an open world. Like there is no starting area. You know what I mean? So that's what I like about the difficulty scaler in Zelda. Speaking of that, we don't have to stay on Zelda too long, but
well, too bad, because we're actually going to go into the other Zelda topic, which isn't Tears of the Kingdom, but is the Zelda movie announcement. So I want your thoughts on this first, actually, before I give mine, because I'm going to be a bit of a rain cloud, I imagine. So I don't think so.
I'm going to be fair. You might be the rain cloud, but I am going to at least be a little bit of clarity on both sides, because I am hyper optimistic, but I understand the reservation, right? Like, video game movies have never had a good rap. Any adaptation has never really had a good rap, right? So I think that but I do think that there's a couple things that we need to kind of get over, right? For example, the Resident Evil movie. Let's take other video game movies as an example before we dive too deep into it. Resident Evil, the first movie, banger. The other movies, in my opinion, bangers. I actually really enjoyed the other movies, but they weren't Resident Evil. Nemesis being able to be like, spoiler alert from a 14-year-old movie, but Nemesis being able to be like coerced by talking and crying, a little weird, because that's just not what happens. And then Alice having force powers was a little weird. But if they didn't call it Resident Evil, they're pretty good movies. But then you got something like, and a lot of people think that that's bad. Okay, sure, I'll give you that. That's bad. Then you got Doom, and people are kind of back and forth on that. Then you got something that's atrocious, like the Mario movie, the original Mario movie in the 90s. They're bad. They're comically bad. But when things start to adapt more recently, we're getting good things now. And so Ruki's saying like The Last of Us. I think that like we adapted that perfectly. I've never even played that game, but that show moved me so bad. I'm pretty sure I cried every single episode. Yep. Good and bad tears. It's just such a good show. Very good adaptation. So that The Last of Us, and in my opinion, Assassin's Creed, the movie was pretty good. It wasn't the best thing ever, but it was fun. It was what the Assassin's Creed games are. The Assassin's Creed games aren't like, whoa, these are the best games ever, like some people will have you believe. They're games that exist, and they're good in the world that they're in.
Agreed.
The movie is the same way. The movie was good for a movie. It wasn't a fucking box office smash, but I liked it. The Last of Us is that though. So if we, and then you go back to Mario, the new Mario movie, the new Sonic movie, fantastic. I think it was the best that it could have ever been. Sonic 2 was incredible. The Mario movie, incredible. And what happened with the Mario movie? Miyamoto worked closely with it, very closely. They didn't let their baby be handled by somebody who doesn't care about it and wanted a cash grab. Yeah. So Miyamoto has already been said to talk about or been talking about this movie, this live action Zelda, apparently for years. And so if he's been in contact with directors for years with this, I don't really have much reservation that it's going to be bad. Now, I still do a little bit because, I mean, anything can happen. But I trust Miyamoto. I think that he cares the most about the Nintendo IPs. So that's where I see it. I am hopeful, wishful, and I'm optimistic. But I do have a little bit of reservation. So your rain cloud can come right over me because I think that right. I think that I can handle it.
Okay. All right. Hurricane Ford's coming through. All right. So I think I agree with almost everything you said about like video game adaptations getting a lot better. You know, we are getting to a point where video games are getting adapted into other media fairly well, especially the movies and TV shows. And I initially would have been fairly excited about as excited as I could be for something like this. But it being live action is definitely a choice. I'm very curious as to, especially with Miyamoto being involved and that being the choice. I do kind of wonder. I guess I can't really see a Zelda story being told in live action and being that good, if I'm being honest.
Why?
I think that there's too many weird factors to it. So like
there would be too much CGI, maybe. Is that what you're thinking?
A lot of CGI, you know, like how are you going to do Gorons? How are you going to do Zoras? How are you going to even do Ganon? Right?
Well, Zoras could pretty much just be people, but yeah, I'm with you on Gorons for the most part.
It depends on what Zelda you're talking about. The Zoras in freaking Tears of the Kingdom sure ain't people.
Yeah, but they could be. The costume department might be on overtime there, but I think you could get away with people on that. But I'm with you though. Gorons, probably not.
And that's kind of my thing. Is I
the
look
bird
at
people,
a lot of,
probably not.
Yeah, the Rito and stuff like that. It's like I look at a lot of the things that I would love to see in a Zelda movie, and it being live action makes me go, "How are you going to do that? How are you going to do that well?"
That's fair. That's fair.
Because they could totally like CG up a Goron and be like, "All right, yes, the fucking Goron."
But is it because you think it might be bad CGI? Because if are we not putting in? Okay, it's not going to be the same effort, but is it not going to be similar effort if it's just the whole movie is CG? Or animated, I should say.
Well, and that's the thing is like,
would you want it 2D or 3D animated if you had to pick?
I would love. It would never happen, but a 2D animated Zelda movie would be dope.
I absolutely agree.
Still, that like nostalgia in it never would happen. The 2D animation.
I think you get so much more action out of it that way too.
Yeah, but
I think that needs to be a TV show, not a movie, though. That would need to be a TV show,
and I'd be down with that. But I would, even a 3D animated, I would like, because I think what it is I don't necessarily have any reservations that they're going to do Zelda poorly or even Link poorly. I mean, I do think Link is kind of weird because he's kind of like a blank slate, but granted, Mario is kind of blank slate and they figured that out. So I imagine that they'll be able to do Link fairly well. But then taking those two out of it, the rest of what the movie would be, I feel like would be better done in 3D animation. And that's why I'm just kind of like,
you definitely would get a little bit more magic out of it. I could see that.
You would get a lot more magic out of it. And
it's good because being live action, you're getting a little bit more grittiness. So I would agree with that.
Yeah, and even then, like I think 3D animation, like another perfect example. Like I would have loved if they would do a like Twilight Princess. I think Twilight Princess has one of the better stories in Zelda. And so if they did an animated Twilight Princess, adaptation, that'd be incredible. How would you ever do that in live action, right?
Well, wouldn't Twilight Princess be one of the better ones for live action?
I don't think so, because you've got the whole like Twilight realm. You've got like, how are you going to do Midna and not make her just look very bizarre? You've got live action Link here, and then you've got like weird big head, odd body like Midna design. Like, hey Link, we're gonna go save the Twilight realm. Like,
yeah, but you got things like, I mean, the new Avatar just dropped. The teaser, and Momo looks incredible. Appa looks incredible. So I think you can do stuff like that. Not that their proportions are super weird, but yeah. But
also you're going to see Appa and Momo probably not the largest amount in those shows. Granted,
you're saying it? Yeah, true.
But they're going to be like, you're going to see total in each episode. You'll see like a minute and a half of both.
Right.
Versus like if you're doing a Twilight Princess story, you're seeing Midna quite literally like almost 24/7.
Yeah, but that it's also, I agree with you, but at the same time, do they have to be 100% attached to him or in frame at all times? Because it's not the video game anymore.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. They don't necessarily have to.
I personally, so in a perfect world, say it's going to be good. Say that this live action is going to be fantastic and it's all your faith in it. What story would you like to see? A new one or an existing one? And if an existing one, which one?
Honestly, I think Breath of the Wild story is probably the best one to do for live action. You can have 80% of the story revolve around Link and Zelda and their interactions and their whole thing, flashbacks and all that kind of stuff. And then you can have that other 20% be like, like the champions, like you get a random scene of the champions, like fighting off some of the things and all that. Like, I think that would translate fairly well because similar to how you can do Breath of the Wild, you can start the game and just go beat Ganon.
Yeah.
You don't need the Goron part of the story. You don't need the Zora part of the story. You don't need any of that if you don't want to. And I think that's kind of almost the way that they would have to do it, is make it so that those things orbit around the characters, but just don't make it a focal point. I don't need a Goron main character. I don't need a Zora main character. I don't need a Rito main character. Just make it about Zelda, Link, and Ganon.
I have a feeling that might be what it would be, is the Triforce 3. I think that that's what... Because I agree with you. Is that what you want, though?
I mean, for a movie, I guess, yeah, because that story, granted, I don't think that story is incredible, but it also gives enough wiggle room for them to adapt. Right? Like Twilight Princess would be tougher to adapt because of like some of the reasons we've already mentioned. Some that, Ocarina of Time would be kind of tough to adapt because you've got to have like young Link and then older Link. And then there's parts in the game where like you have to go back to being young Link again and everything. Like, and those are,
they might not have to follow the theme where going back and forth too much, but going from one to the other and then maybe back. That might be a little weird because you got, it's very child focused, I guess, and
yes.
So I would agree with that to a degree, because I do think personally that Ocarina might be the better fit, because I think if we're going the movie route, I think going from Ocarina to getting Majora's Mask, and even if you don't do it as Kid Link in Majora's Mask, just make him adult Link in Majora's Mask. It's Terminus, who cares? Sure. But personally, I want Majora's Mask because I think that story is incredible. I love the concept and the magic of the masks. But in Ocarina of Time, you get the magic of the world. I think waking up in the Kokiri Forest, I think having Navi and in Majora's Mask Tattle and all them, I think that that having this magical setting says Zelda more than, because like you can't do Wind Waker, right? Because then it's like you're the kid's mom who's taking the kid to go see the movie is just like, is this Pirates of the Caribbean or what are we watching here? You know, they don't know what's going on. It's like,
honestly, I'd love a Wind Waker though.
I mean, I would too, right, but I think it doesn't sell the magic of Zelda. It's kind of sells we're already established. So if we had a couple movies that were independent, like this is one Legend of Zelda movie, this is another Legend of Zelda movie, just like the games are, and then we have this is a Wind Waker Zelda movie, that would sell it better, because it's like, oh, which one did you like, this version or that version, versus the first one. The very first one needs to be, like you said, Breath of the Wild, or in my opinion, Ocarina of Time. I think having a magic of the world being music driven is a beautiful thing that I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think that there's a lot of media that does that. The music being the magic focal point, like, that's kind of beautiful.
Not in movies. I mean, you know, like I just finished Stormlight, you know, music is a pretty crucial thing.
Like imagine instead of like a monologue of like the character having like this monologue for something, it's like, well, what are we gonna do, Link? Blah blah blah. Like, and then they have like this dialogue back and forth, and then just
musical number.
Then just, well, not like a full, but like you just hear da 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 da, and then you just get this immediate rush of like, okay, we know where we're at, because who are they selling it to? I mean, they're not selling it to people that haven't played the games. They're selling it to, I mean, they're going for a larger audience, I'm sure. Of course, why wouldn't you? Mm-hmm. But they're gonna. It's just like the Mario movie. They put in Rainbow Road because they know their audience.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think Ocarina is probably number 2 that I would put on the list of like what story they should do. I still think you would run into some like hard issues with like adapting and like still making it good, just because so much of that story does revolve around it, kind of like what you said, the magic of Hyrule. But the problem is in like if it was animated, Ocarina 100%, no questions asked.
So is that your only reservation? Like, because you said you got this rain cloud over it. Do you think we need Zelda media at all, or do you think it's just the live action that's the problem?
I think live action just introduces a lot of complications to it, whereas animated is a lot more simpler. Animated would be a lot easier to jump into like an Ocarina story, probably make it a little bit more, you know, a little bit more adult than like Super Mario was, because Super Mario was obviously very kid movie, which is fine. You know, that's what Mario needed to be. They weren't going to do. Yeah, they're not going to do gritty Mario. You know?
Hey, I got this turtle I'm jumping on over here.
Yeah, like they're not going to do that. So Mario did exactly what it needed to be. Anybody who wanted more from the Mario movie than what it was just setting themselves up for failure.
Get out of my way, fuckwads.
And so, but with Zelda, I feel like there's not like a definitive Zelda, which makes it difficult, because then you have to decide, is this like an original story? And if so,
I would love that.
of like what Zelda is, it's a huge scale where it's like super kiddie friendly, and then like super dark, grotesque. Oh my god, Zant just snapped Ganon's neck. Like,
I think that actually would be beautiful, but I think that's almost what kind of killed the Assassin's Creed movie, because I think that it was beautiful because every Assassin's Creed game is different. It's a different assassin. Yes. It's a different bloodline. You got Altair and Ezio and et cetera, whatever. And this one in the movie, it was a new assassin. It was also a new animus and how to get into the assassin realm or memories or whatever. So, and people didn't like that. They're like, why is it not my Assassin's Creed? It's like, none of them are your Assassin's Creed. They're all different.
That is fair. But I will say the advantage Assassin's Creed has is tonally, you are generally the same from game to game. Like the stakes of the game never change a ton. Whereas I feel like in Zelda, the stakes do change a lot. The tone changes a lot.
Oh, absolutely. But I'm saying, I guess my point is like transitioning to a different media, like Assassin's Creed went from game to movie, and it was a different story, just like they all are. But since it was a different media format, people were like, this isn't the one I wanted. So as Zelda, I think it kind of has to be a already established story, because like you said, there is a massive sliding scale. But if they choose a new story, people already probably have reservations. There are already rain clouds out there. They're already like, video game movies have a stigma. I already don't like the fact that there's going to be a Zelda movie. I'm personally excited, but most people might not be. So if you make it a news story, they're going to be like, this isn't my Zelda. And even if it's good, even if it's great, you're going to get that reservation of like, I don't think this is right. This isn't my Zelda. Where's my ocarina? Where's my Master Sword? Or, well, I mean, there's definitely going to be a Master Sword, but
definitely going to be a Master Sword. But honestly, yeah, you're 100% right. There's always going to be a group that's not going to like it just based off of it not being what they see Zelda as, which is probably whichever Zelda came out around when they were like 7 or 8 years old.
Right.
Because that's about where I'm at. Ocarina. Granted, Twilight, I actually think I put above Ocarina, but that's
I've never played Twilight Princess. I should go back and play it, huh?
It's very good. It's very good. I think it has some of the best dungeons out of any of the games.
That's the one where you can become a wolf, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Big old wolf. And that's the thing is like stories that I absolutely do not think will get adapted is stuff like Twilight Princess, Majora's Mask, like that kind of stuff will not get adapted, at least not right now. I could see, like you said, movie 3, 4 comes out because they're going to make a billion of these things. And so once those happen, then I could see you getting more and more into those stories. But I think based off what you said, I think you're right. It has to be off of an established story, or at least loosely based off an established story.
Right.
And I think that leads me back to I think Breath of the Wild is the one. It just leaves the most amount of room because literally the story is you wake up after like 100-year coma and then you go and fight Ganon. And there's a whole gap that you can put a movie in between those two things.
Right.
And so I think that would probably be the smarter bet. I would be down for an Ocarina, but I feel that's where the whole live action thing comes in, where it's like, if they were going to do Ocarina, I feel like it'd have to be animated because I'd want all the like Hyrule stuff in it. Whereas if they make a Breath of the Wild one, I don't need all the Hyrule stuff in it. Some of it sprinkled without. I want to see some background stuff. Oh, look, there's a Goron. Oh, look, there's a, whatever. Like, oh, look, there's a stuff like that. But I don't need it to be front and center. Whereas if we did Ocarina, I'd want it front and center.
That's what's so weird about it, right? Like why did they even choose live action? Is it just because he's very humanoid-esque, whereas Mario isn't? Because Mario is so successful. Mario was so successful as animated. Why wouldn't they just do it again? I mean, I guess it's probably a higher budget, right? I mean, I guess because you're animating everything.
Yeah, but
it's just such a weird choice.
That is the weird thing is, especially because Miyamoto is involved. I'm just like, it feels weird that Miyamoto would say, "I want a live action Zelda." Right? Like that feels weird. Which is why that's another kind of part of my trepidation is like, is Miyamoto just kind of taking the lead of like some of the more like directorial people from like Hollywood or, wherever he's talking to, who are saying, oh, live action would be the way to go with this. Cause I don't know. The likelihood of failure, I feel like, goes up exponentially by being live action.
I mean, it does have some pretty high-end names. I mean,
you mean the guy that worked on Morbius?
Yeah, but
Venom.
Well, Venom was great. Period. I don't care what you said. Venom was great.
It was fine.
It was fun for what it is. I'm not saying like Zelda. Like, let's be real. The Zelda is not going to be the new Avatar.
No.
I feel like if done correctly and spent with a lot of time, with the right love, it could not be the next Avatar, but it could be up there in the box office. But it's gonna be a Mario hit. It's gonna be like 100 under Mario. Because it's a little bit more niche.
What's like the last like big fantasy movie that we got that like was good? I'm like now trying to
Way
think
of Water.
Like, and that's like sci-fi. That's more sci-fi than fantasy. Like
the D&D movie. I mean, it's kind of a comedy, but it was beautiful. I love that movie. It was a very good movie.
Yeah. Huh.
The D&D movie was. Have you seen it? It's very good.
I've seen part of it. I want to go back and finish it. Yeah. I guess that's probably the latest one. Huh.
But I mean, not just the directors, but the producers and the screenwriters. I mean, so you got Kingdom of Planet of the Apes, Maze Runner, Venom, Uncharted, and Jurassic World. All good movies. They're not great movies, but they're good.
They're popcorn flicks. Yeah, they're they're not going to change the way you think about film, but they're.
But the thing is this could be their breakout with these, like, because I mean, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, we know what we're getting. Venom, we know what we're getting. Uncharted, we know what we're getting. Zelda has not really been on the screen besides gaming, other than like the old cartoons and stuff from the 90s. Excuse me, princess.
Excuse me, princess.
But like, so other than that, we haven't really got it. So I mean, god damn it, dude. Just looking at the Breath of the Wild, like him looking off into the kingdom of Hyrule, it just gets me. I mean, like they could make it epic. This could be that breakout. Like, hey, we did it.
That's what I mean. I think Breath of the Wild has the most room for adaptation, where like you could slot in a lot of cool stuff. And some of those memories and stuff, and you could build that relationship between Link and Zelda. Because the other weird thing, as like a big future problem, Zelda's connect, quote unquote, very loosely, and even with these new games, they're like, do they connect?
Yeah, it's very loose.
And so then the question becomes like, they're not going to just make one of these and say, all right, guys, we did it. Zelda movie accomplished. Let's head home. Like, there's gonna be 2, 3, 4, however many of these movies.
Well, especially if they're successful, yeah.
And so then the question becomes like, once you've beat Ganon at the end of the first movie, like, what's movie 2? What's movie 3?
Well, it could be like
Breath 4.
It could be like Breath of the Wild to Tears of the Kingdom. They're canonical in sequence. So I mean, it's Ganon, but it's Calamity Ganon, and then you got Ganon.
So once you get to movie 3, then it's like, all right, what are we doing here? Like, are we soft rebooting next Link? I don't know how well that works in film, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it could just be the way that the games are. That's why I think having them say that they're connected is so weird to me, because if you defeat Ganon in one, they can't really be connected unless you keep going back in time, and they're not all about time. And then it's like, does Ganon kind of transcend time? Possibly, sure. But then we're getting into theories, and I like it just to be... I like to think of every game as their own thing, except for the ones that are back-to-back. Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask. Like, Ocarina of Time to Majora's Mask is such a beautiful transition, too. It's one of my favorite things. Like, it's so good. Because it's not Ganon again. It's a world without Ganon. It's not even Hyrule, and I love that. It's Terminus. Like, it's Skull Kid, and, like, he's not even evil. It's the mask that's doing it. And even the mask salesman, where you get the mask, he's eerie, but he's not the bad guy. It's the mask, period. Like, I don't know. It's just, personally, that's what I want to see. If you had to ask me, I want to see Majora's Mask only. Because, like, that storyline is so good. The magic of the masks plus the magic of the music, it all kind of ties in. I think it's just great.
Do you, kind of going back to the game real quick, because you brought up the whole, like, going, to Terminus and all that kind of stuff. Do you think that Tears of the Kingdom, or the next Zelda game, is going to be a sequel to Tears of the Kingdom?
I don't think it's going to be a sequel to it. Actually, you know what? I mean, whether it's a sequel, your question, I don't know. But I do think that it's going to be, I feel like they're going to want to make a little bit of extra cash here, and they're going to go into this open world thing. I think it's going to be an open world Terminus. I don't know if we're going to get Majora's Mask per se, but I think that we're going to get an open world Terminus out of this.
Yeah, the directors have said as much, that like this is the new Zelda formula.
Right, but I don't think, how many times can we use Hyrule like and then get away with it? Like, I think Tears of the Kingdom was fine to reuse the map because we got 2 extra maps, plus so much has changed. Honestly, it doesn't even feel like the same map. The places, like they said, they designed it this way, feel familiar, but they don't feel the same. And I love that. And I felt that because I literally played the games back to back. And but I do think that we're going to get a new world. I think it's going to be Terminus or just a new world period. I don't think we're
new world period.
So yeah, it might be. I mean, because are they going to try and get away from Ganon?
Maybe this is them like soft launching the movies. The movie's going to start with Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, and then by that time, third open world Zelda will be out and will be in Terminus or
But I think they could redo it. We still get the same gameplay. We still get the open world new, and then not Hyrule, but maybe it's not a sequel. Maybe it's its own game, like Wind Waker. Maybe it's an open world Wind Waker type of deal, or whatever. Maybe it's Space Zelda, which would be so stupid. But I'm just saying, maybe it could be anything.
Space Zelda, let's go.
Give me a dark open world one.
Honestly, if they did sci-fi Zelda, that'd be when I'm like, all right, cool, you're doing something pretty fresh. I'm in. Let's go. Let's do it. Probably wouldn't like it that much, but it'll be fun.
Is there any person besides the obvious that everyone's throwing around, do you think that could play Link? Young or old?
Who's the obvious? I don't even know who the obvious is.
Just the one that I keep seeing floating around. I don't think it's obvious, but Tom Holland is what a lot of people say. I don't know actors very well. I know who Tom Holland is, but I don't know a lot of actors, so you couldn't really ask me because I don't really know a lot, but I do see Tom Holland, and I could see that. He's not as androgynous as Link should be, but he's very boyish.
Yeah,
he's young.
I mean, Tom Holland's actually not a bad pick.
I feel like Link. Actually, you know what? I don't even think he needs to be more androgynous in the movie. I think the fact that he's androgynous, I don't think he needs to be super masculine either. But the fact that he's like androgynous in the games and he's voiceless in the games is mostly because, and that's why they also let you name him in the other games that are less forced story, like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. They let you name him. He's androgynous and he's voiceless because you're him. You're projecting on him. And so in the movie, you're not projecting on him. So he's allowed to talk. Because a lot of people are like, he's quiet. He's going to be quiet in the movies. Like, no, he's not going to be fucking quiet in the movies. Like, no. He has his own voice. He's not you anymore.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
I see people say that too, so.
Oh, man. I would laugh so hard. That would be
I saw people say the girl from Game of Thrones could be Zelda. I think that's interesting. I think she needs to maybe be a little bit... Yeah. I think she maybe needs to be a little bit softer.
Or de-aged ever so slightly.
Yeah, but
because I mean, remember they're like what, like late teenage years.
Technically, in Tears of the Kingdom, they are 18 or 17 or something like that. So, but we don't have to keep that so canonical. I don't agree with because you can say, I mean, think about it. They're like the new. I don't know how into Yu Yu Hakusho you were, but they're supposed to be 14 in the anime. They don't even look 14, but they're supposed to be 14. And in the live action, they're like 30. So it's like they're not 14. So I don't agree with keeping the age consistent with things unless the age matters, and I don't think the age matters. I think the only reason in Zelda that the age matters is something like Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, when Link is kind of like re-falling in love with this girl, and it's like new teen love. But I don't think they have to be teenagers for that. I think you can be early 20s. I mean, you can have love at any age, but I think keeping them youthful while still maintaining them being an adult is not that bad. Being 20 is not a problem.
I think late teenage, early 20 is probably the age look that you're going for.
Exactly.
Obviously, the actors don't have to be that age, but age look. You know, Tom Holland looks like he's
20.
He looks like he's like 20 something, like 21 or something, and he's like 30, I think. Dark Noise B says the dude who played Aragorn for Old Link, I would die for a Viggo Mortensen as Old Link. That would be hilarious.
That's like a Twilight Princess Link.
That's gritty. I've been through a couple wars. Link. But yeah, I think I don't really know actors all that well. So honestly, Tom Holland's probably about the best that I could come up with. I will be very interested to see who they cast for like Ganon. Because I definitely think we are going to move away from Ganon looking like Ganon, if that makes sense. Like out of all the characters that are going to have a vastly different look to them, I think Ganondorf is going to look vastly different.
That's not
than his video game counterpart.
I think as long as they keep him within the because he he's a Gerudo. So if you got to keep him like the darker skin tone, but other than that, I mean, I think that he still fits the mold of being kind of up to change because he's kind of timeless, right? He transcends anything. Like he's the once in a million year or whatever, once in 100 year Gerudo male. Plus he's kind of a god, but he's also not, but he kind of is. And he also has the Triforce, and he's young and he's old. And there's so many things to him that you could kind of get away with doing anything.
Idris Elba for
I see that. I could 100% see that.
Dope. I would be pretty happy with that.
100%. 100%. He crushed it. For not knowing anything about Sonic or anything, he crushed it as Knuckles. He was so good.
But yeah, so I'm trepidatious, man, if I can speak, to say the least, about it. But I mean, Mario movie was good, so I'll give Miyamoto the benefit of the doubt. You know, I'll be like, I'll wait and see what you got for me. Did they say a rough release time frame for it or anything?
No, I think it's just now being in development. So however long that takes with movies, it could be 2 years, it could be 5. So it just depends on how much time they want to put into it. But I think that's it, since it's being put in development. I don't even think they've cast yet.
No, this definitely is like
but it's also been talked about for 2 years. So have they written some of it already, or is it just been on the table?
At least some like general ideas, and then they'll probably have a writer come in and be like, "We want to make sure we hit these 4 bullet points or 5 bullet points or something," and then somebody can come in and write around that. Right. But since this is live action too, you know, that usually means, granted, it'll depend on how much CG they put in it, but that usually means a little bit tighter of a turnaround, a little bit less of a wait. So who knows? We may be watching this by 2-3 years from now, which would be kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm looking forward to. I just want to see it. I get happy with things like when I was a kid, and this is a little bit of a history for me, but I liked the bad Mario movie because I didn't know better. Because I saw anything that said something like, excuse me. Now, obviously, this is just playing on, like, you can grift a kid so fucking easily, you know. But at the same time, it's like
that's
really
funny.
It's just true because like whenever I was a kid, I saw the name Mario on a movie, and I was like, I'm all in. I play the game. It's on the TV. And so I watched it, and I was like, he's got the red, it's the Mario that I love. And then I watched it as an adult with common sense, and I was like, oh, this is atrocious.
It's atrociously good though, you know. It's like awful, but like,
I don't know. I would agree with that to a certain degree. Maybe I just don't like to watch the car accidents kind of deal, but Sirens and I tried to watch it out of like a hate watch, laugh at it kind of thing. Mm-hmm. We couldn't even do that. We turned it off halfway through.
Damn. You missed some of the best part. You missed like a lot of the mutation stuff towards the end.
Yeah, I know. I've seen it. I know what it's about. She's just never seen it.
Oh, okay. I mean, we can at least take solace in it won't be that bad.
I don't think it could even. I don't think it can even come that close.
Honestly, I think you have to try nowadays to make something that bad.
That's kind of my point. Going back to the initial question, like, do I think it could be good, and why am I hopeful? And it's because that stuff, like these, like video game movies are, and I can say this about with certain things with anime too, but like video game movies aren't bad anymore. Now they can be, but like the technology and the money that they throw into these things, they aren't going to be atrocious like they were. And same with like anime to like dub and sub. Like so many people love, this is gonna get off the topic of video games, but so many people love sub and they're sub purists. But at the same time, that's because in the 90s, the dub people to English localize it didn't have the funds, and they didn't care, or they just weren't getting paid enough to care. And so that some of those actors from back then maybe they didn't have their heart in it, so it wasn't as good. And it's not localized for it. But nowadays, they kind of make that, not only do they make it in mind with that, but they're actually paying their actors now. And these actors have passion for this type of stuff. And it's a very competitive market, so they have to have that passion. So now dub is good. And so people are like, oh, dub's trash. It's like, no, it's not. You're living 20 years ago. That's what you're doing. And so I feel the same thing about video game movies. Like, when Assassin's Creed was about to be coming out, which I keep going back to that one because it's good. It's not great, but it's good. easy 6 to 7 out of 10. But it wasn't a 1 out of 10, 0 out of 10 like the Mario movie. But people still think that, do you remember the Mario movie? It's like, yeah, dude. But we've also forgotten, we've moved on because we have the budget's much higher and we're not getting Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo. We have much better. I don't know. Not that they're bad actors, but come on.
I want you to know, though, this is probably the most somebody's talked about the Assassin's Creed movie in years.
I just go back to that because it was actually good, but before it came out and after it came out, people said it was bad because I feel like there's a sentiment you're supposed it's supposed to be bad. It's a video game movie. They're all bad. It's like, that's not true. It's just not true.
I agree. They're not all good, but they're definitely not all bad.
Right. So we can move off of the Zelda topic. There's not really much else to talk about because nothing's been released, but I just wanted to know who you thought maybe could play Link. But if you and I, neither one of us know really a lot of actors, I think Tom Holland is our best choice, and that's the safe bet.
Probably the best choice right now. But actually, so, you brought up like dub and sub and everything like that. I know you just watched the Attack on Titan finale. Granted, I haven't watched it, so I'm not gonna have much to say here. But if you wanna dish real quick on what you thought of the finale,
I can. I without getting the specifics because I don't want to spoil it because it's probably the most beautiful show and talking about things that changed our lives. I wouldn't say that it changed my life in terms of how I think, but it changed my life in terms of I think that it was a masterpiece that everyone needs to see beginning to end, fully attentive, genuinely. I believe that. It has its ups and downs. It's not your stereotypical anime. There's not a lot of tropes in it, and the finale was, I would say, a 9 out of 10, just 9.5 out of 10, just because there's a couple characters that I probably or a couple things that I think that should have happened that didn't happen. A couple characters maybe that should have died. Not like in a good or bad way, or they chose wrong or anything. The way that it happened, I was like, maybe I could have went without that or whatever. But overall, very beautiful ending, very symbolic, great themes all the way through. It ended the way it began in terms of like metaphorically. And so that was very beautiful. And then I love this metaphor. Without spoiling it, there was an after credits. There was a during credits scene and an after credits scene, and it just kind of goes. If you know the themes of season 4 in general, without spoiling it, you just know that it's never over, and that's what is so beautiful about this show, is because it just reminds you, like. It just, I don't know, it's just so good, like, because this to me, the symbolism of like the credits and the after credits showing you the metaphor of it's not over during the credits, the fact that the show is over but it's not over, like, and so then showing you something after the credits means that the show is not over, and then the message is also not done. I thought that was beautiful. And there's not much else to say without spoiling it. So it was great.
Well, I do have a question based off that. Then, so you saying it's not over? Do you feel like there is more, not necessarily, I guess, Attack on Titan, but Attack on Titan adjacent stuff in the future?
They leave it open for that, but I don't think they will. I don't think it's I think it's more or less showing you. The cycle continues. The cycle continues, and not that the Attack on Titan is going to continue.
Okay.
Because it would be completely different.
They just be like, sometimes there's like, you know what? It's 10 years later. We're like, you guys just want to keep on making that anime again, and they just do it, So
they could. I mean, they left it open to do so, but it would be different because if you know how everything happened. If you know the origins from season 3 and season 4, if you know the origins of the Titans, then the way that it ends, you wouldn't get the same result. So it wouldn't be the exact same show. You'd get a completely different show, I feel like. But similarly, you'd see the cycle continues, the World War II allegory, stuff like that. So we're going to continue to see humanity suffer, basically. And that's what I loved about it. It was bleak. It wasn't a happy ending. It was happy where it needed to be happy, but it wasn't, I I don't know, man. It was
It
beautiful.
wasn't sunshine and rainbows. Everybody's riding off into the sunset.
But it has a happy ending. But it's not a happy ending, if that makes sense.
It's not a happy ending for the characters, but happy ending for the world?
Vice versa.
Interesting. Okay. I wouldn't expect that. Okay. So are you satisfied?
Very.
Do you feel like you need more?
Nope.
Or are you done?
Perfectly done. I think it was. I think it ended great, and apparently it ended the same way the manga did, which a lot of people were worried because apparently not a lot of the manga readers did not accept that ending. I do, and and the anime watchers do accept the ending, which is funny.
I heard that the anime did add some stuff, like nothing crazy, but like from people that I've talked to, it sounds like the manga just kind of like ends very rapidly, and it sounds like the anime spaced things out a little bit to where it didn't feel like things were just like happening to.
Yeah, it was kind of they did it in like 4 or 5 separate parts. I would say I think it was 4 parts. The final episode, like they did like a 20-minute segment and then another 20-minute segment, then they kind of broke it up into 4 different segments, and then and then you have the after credits pictures that they're kind of like still images showing you what's happening with humanity, kind of, and then there's an after credits actual animation scene, and so they 4, give or take 5 breaking points to chop it up. It was definitely paced really well. Give you time to reflect on each moment that was happening, even though it was a very high intensity, stressful, in peril moment in time.
Okay.
Can't wait to talk to you about it.
Yeah, I will finish it soon. TM. You know, with all these video games I'd be playing, I just played Exoprimal again like 2 days ago. That was a lot of fun. Very excited. They just got announced that season 4 is coming out. We don't have to talk about it, but
I did have it in my notes, so I did want you to at least go into whatever you wanted to get into.
All I want to say is I'm just they announced the initial first 3 title updates, or 3 seasons, whatever you want to call them, and then that was it. And so a lot of people were just kind of like, all right, this thing's probably dead after season 3. But no, they announced a 4th title update, 4th season. So
it's doing well, it sounds like.
Apparently it's doing well enough. I mean, I know player counts aren't, tremendously high, but I still get into a match, no problem. And they just did a Street Fighter crossover. So now, your mech can look like a mech version of Chun-Li, which is pretty dope. So now awesome. I am a Chun-Li mech killing hordes and hordes of dinosaurs, which if you said that sentence 5 years ago, you would have sounded like a crazy person.
The only other thing that I have on here for my notes is the Destiny season, if you wanted to go over that, and then we could recap our nominees, which we kind of already did a little bit, but we don't have to recap our nominees. I just do want to mention and reiterate to anyone that's still listening, this Monday, we're getting the official nominees. So yes. Next week, Ford and I are going to be going over those in each category and kind of laying out who we think should or will win. So once we get the official nominees next week.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I honestly love doing this because even on the Game Awards website, they let you like predict who you think's going to win it.
Very fun. So I can put that up on screen whenever we do that too. I think it'd be fun.
Yeah, I think we should do that. I think that'll be a lot of fun. So very excited for that. As far as the Destiny season, new Destiny season got announced. Season of the Wish. And let me tell you, if there was ever going to be a season that was going to be 7 months long, I'd want it to be an Ahamkara season. I am extremely excited. This is like the niche of niches within the Destiny lore that I'm like 100% into. So
for sure,
very excited for it. I also really enjoyed the lead up to it, like having to do stuff in the Embaru engine and all that. Not really a ton to say here. I do think this kind of just harkens back to our last episode, just talking about the whole live serviceness of it. This is the last season of Destiny 2. After this, we're getting episodes, which granted, they're probably mostly the same, but we're never going to get season of the blank ever again, which is kind of crazy to think about.
A slight end of an era, but same feel.
Same feel.
I do have something to say about the season, though.
Okay, sure. What's up?
And I haven't even finished this season to get into it, but I do have something to say about it and why it's kind of special to me. So, what I love about Destiny is something that they don't even do. There's something that I love about the concept of Destiny that Bungie doesn't even do. Now, they do sometimes. I mean, you got things like the Embargo engine that's full of secrets and the community has to kind of figure it out, but we kind of figure it all out really quickly. Now, back in Destiny 1, the Vault of Glass was the first raid, and it was so mysterious. And we found a secret chest as a community, and it was like, oh my god. So now it's like, and then it spread like wildfire. It went viral immediately. The first, that very first secret chest inside the little, you go down the little thing, and it's still there to this day in Destiny 2's remake version of it. And then there was the one where you jump in, and we don't do it now because there's no chest there. I think it's only used for the Vex Mythoclast Catalyst, but there used to be a chest in that area. And then there's a chest, and then we always thought, oh, there'd be a third chest, and it's over there when you do the jumping puzzle in the very far back. And there was always a rumor that there was going to be a chest there. Spoiler alert, there never ended up becoming a chest there in Destiny 1. Now in Destiny 2, you use that area for a mission, I think, to teleport somewhere. And then it's also for the catalyst. It's for both. There's a teleport there too for something. Either way, and I thought that was cool to add it in there, but give us this super secret. It was the fact that there could be. There never was, and that always bothered me. But this is why I love this, because the community has been favoring and wanting and wishing, if I could be so on the nose, for the 15th wish, right? That has been like, it's all over Reddit. And I have always loved this concept of like the community getting together and figuring something out, and Bungie's just like, we're not gonna say anything. And so I love that they're gonna give it to us. I do hate that it's not in the game yet, or we couldn't have found out. It's being still time gated, but I love that they're giving it to us. I do hate that a lot of people spend a lot of time trying to figure out what it was, but it's not there. But I do love that it is there, just not yet. So that's something that I love about Destiny that they don't even do. So it's unfortunate that there's not these secrets that we can just find in the game that aren't just like video game obvious, like, oh, go behind the waterfall and that there's a thing there. Like, I want this 15th. Now, obviously, you got gamers that do this shit nowadays where the 15th wish, someone has a fucking, I've seen it, someone has a bot that sits at the wish wall and enters like, brrr, brrr, and they have like just they're formatting these codes. So that's really stupid to obviously, because then someone would have found out that 15th wish by now because of these programs and shit like that. But so I understand why they time gate it. I just wish they didn't have to, because I love that kind of stuff and I want secrets to just be everywhere. Yeah, but the fact that it's kind of coming out, I am happy for it. So
yeah, I agree. The secrets of Destiny has kind of been like kind of a long tradition for the series. And yeah, I'm very excited that the 15th wish is, actually real. I agree with your points. It would have been cool if it was already in the game, but then yeah, gamers would have found that forever. They would have data mined something. They would have ran bots to do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
So I get why they have to like kind of protect it for like narrative purposes. But I don't know. I'd be very excited to see them continue to do stuff like this. Like if the Pale Heart in Final Shape has like some sort of like secret that over time we slowly kind of figure out. I think those are really
It'd be
cool.
very reminiscent of the Dreadnought. I mean, because we were kind of uncovering secrets as we went. So that was also kind of a good thing for Destiny to be not on PC back then too. Being on a console is like we're so limited by just being on a console, so we couldn't data mine as easily. Now you could, but not as easily.
Yeah, no, that's actually a very good point, because back then it was very hard to find a lot of that stuff because you had to have a whole bunch of different software and everything to crack that kind of stuff.
Right. But that's all I wanted to touch on with that. I love secrets in any game.
Yeah. Hopefully we have another one with next season, especially with it being more than likely like 7 months long. So we'll see how that goes. But like I said, if there was any season that was going to do it, I'd want it to be this one.
I just wonder what we can even occupy ourselves with 7 months.
supposedly, so Paul Tassi released an article that he's talked to people inside of Bungie, and supposedly there is something that is going to try to fill the gap. What it is, I don't even know if they know yet. They might still be trying to figure out what that's going to be. My hope would be that they just bring back a lot of the older content, like bring back all the raids or something. That is a lot of work, but I mean, hey, I'd run a bunch of raids for a couple months, get some more weapons and everything, especially if there's like master versions.
Throw in them red borders.
Throwing them red borders. Ooh, you know, the dopamine hit when you see that red border, you know.
Yeah.
And then let me look at my notes. I don't think I had any. Oh, GTA 6 is official.
Yeah, that was like that's our title.
Yeah, it's literally our title. Actually, I just remembered that. I mean, the good thing is though, there's not much to say.
Yeah, there's nothing to say about it. Everyone knows that it is, but we're here to also announce it. GTA 6 is official. Not like we wouldn't have known that even if they didn't say it, because there was already leaks, and those leaks were real. But yeah.
And
but around Game Awards might actually, I'm thinking, because they said early December is when they're going to show a trailer, right?
December sometime, yeah, is what they said.
Right, they didn't give a date. Maybe we're going to get a trailer at the Game Awards.
Be pretty big get for Jeff to get that at Game Awards. I'd be surprised because I also feel like Rockstar, as evident by the fact that they announced GTA 6 in not a tweet, but like 3 tweets down in a reply to one of their tweets. They're like, by the way, GTA 6, look for a trailer next month. Only GTA could do that. Or I guess Rockstar could do that. So I don't know if they'll try to make their own thing of it, or if they will just try to like own Game Awards, and like that is like the talk out of Game Awards is the Grand Theft Auto 6 trailer. I do wonder like what can you even do at this point with GTA 6? Like
just re-release it. That's it.
I mean, yeah, just GTA 5.
Because to me, let's be honest, dude. For me personally, they're all the same. And the one previous is just better than the last. That's all it is. I mean, they're all the exact same, but GTA 5 is just the best of them all.
So do you think that this is going to really have a lot of innovation, or is it just going to be like, all right, here's...
I don't think there's much you can do, because the thing is, the innovation lies in what you can do, and in a game that's so open world, so free, where you can even pull out your freaking cell phone and call people, there's not much innovation you got left. And if you have it on PC, which they've notoriously not released immediately, which is so frustrating. So hopefully we get a PC release immediately or soon after, instead of waiting years to make us buy 6 copies of it, like I had to. I bought it for the 360, the Xbox One, and then PC, and that's just so annoying to have to do. But so that being besides that, you get it on PC and you get mod tools, mod support, and the only other thing I can see is if they have, instead of just mod tools, they have what is it called, role playing RP integration. Yeah. If they have some type of RP integration, that's really the only innovation I can even think of, because I mean, what did they do poorly? Because I mean, you get what you get with GTA. Now they could surprise me, and I'd be like, "Wow, this is interesting." But I think the only thing that you can improve on here is load times. Because Jesus Christ, GTA 5 load times are atrocious. Atrocious.
I think it's less about what can. I think it's less of what you can improve on, because now it's like, back then it made sense where it's like you just need to be better than the last one. You just need to innovate and like be better than the last one. But that's when they were coming out every 2-3 years or whatever it was for a while. And now we're like 10 years removed from GTA 5. I feel like they got to have something. I think you're right on the role playing aspect. I think that is probably going to be the innovation they bring, because I know the people that did like the role playing mod stuff, like that whole thing that was going on for a while, and I think still going on. I do believe that they acquired them, or like,
that's even more. So then I'm probably right about that if that's the case then. And I think that's really the only other thing you can really do, and this is again another minute thing, because this is what makes the next game better in the space like this, because the game is already hyper realistic in terms of what you can do in it. You can pull out your phone, you can steal a car, the cars look realistic, the streets look realistic, the locale looks realistic, everything is already so realistic, and it just looks so good. All you can do is out realistic yourself. So it's like, oh, the character models look better, the physics are a little bit better, the physics are so like we're just getting into realism territory, and it's like personally I don't care about that, so that's not going to be the selling point. The selling point is just, I mean, they already have a selling point. It's GTA. What's not to love? Everybody likes GTA for a little bit.
That's true. They could legitimately just next month they're like, hey, it's out next week. We're not going to tell you anything about it, but
as long as it's not a buggy mess, it's a success. And even if it is a buggy mess, that might be fun for a while. You know?
Yeah.
I think where they can, and I don't think this is innovative. I think this is obvious. I think you put in more co-op stuff. Like let me and my friends get money and go. And now I understand that like when you have live service stuff and you have a paid thing where you can get like G-Bucks or whatever the fuck they're called. I think that it's tough to have a thing where you might be able to feed money in. So say like a casino. Like I think that stuff needs to be in immediately. Like I should be able to go to the blackjack table with my friends and play blackjack. And not this like you can, because like right now you can kind of go in there and you can gamble, but if you go in with your friends, it doesn't work the right way. I don't know. I just remember going in there after the DLC came out or after the update came out, and I couldn't immediately play like Texas Hold'em or whatever with my friends, and I'm like, okay, this is fucking stupid. What kind of casino is this? Like all the mini game stuff needs to be co-op. That's gonna be for me my selling point. Like that's the only innovation.
I think that's the interesting thing where I feel like this is almost going to suffer a little bit from what happened from Destiny 1 to Destiny 2, where everyone said with Destiny 2 coming out, they said, I want everything from Destiny 1 plus more. And they missed a bunch of stuff from Destiny 1. And so I wonder if GTA 6 comes out and is GTA 5 plus more, or if they are going to have to rebuild a lot of that stuff.
I don't think they miss anything because they're all the same. They're just on a better engine. They're just a little bit better. They're just a little bit more graphically inclined. Like, I don't. Do you think that you can be better than what it already is for the game that it is? Like, obviously, if you're like, this one's a platformer, it's like that. Well, that's an innovation because that's fucking completely different. You know, but for what it is, it's gonna be open world. It's gonna be a shooter. It's gonna be heist driven. It's going to be crime heavy. Like that. Like these things are core GTA. You can't change that. So where are we innovating? And that's a good thing. I think that keep it what it is. Sell me what you've sold me. It worked.
I'll be surprised if, because GTA 5 has obviously gotten a bunch of updates. You know, it's changed. Like a lot of things you're talking about have probably been fixed. I just wonder if we go into GTA 6 and that stuff is already at that same level. You know, if the being able to like buy your own place and upgrades and all that kind of stuff they introduced, like your penthouse and all that. I wonder if that stuff is going to be at launch what it already is plus more. I think that's
I feel like that's the expectation, right? Because
and I feel like that's why the expectation might falter, because I don't think I've ever known a game that has been able to nail last game plus more with the maximum functionality of all those things. Obviously, like GTAs have been like, yeah, you can steal a car. That's obviously in every single game, but the functionality of like what you can do with that car and where, you know, you can go to this hub and you can get parts off of it, or you can go and like repaint it. Like all that stuff is things that get introduced. I wonder if it comes with all that stuff preloaded in, or if we're going to be waiting 1 to 2 years for the GTA 5 patch to GTA 6, where it's like, all right, now all the stuff that was in GTA 5 that we implemented is now actually here in GTA 6. Yeah. Though granted, maybe that's why it's taking so long, is because they've been making sure all that stuff works. Because I do wonder, like I said, it runs into that problem of a lot of these live service games of when you're upgrading your live service to a new title, people have already invested in that previous live service. So how is that investment going to transfer over, or is it going to transfer over?
I think you just have to do the Destiny and bite the bullet and just say, move the fuck on.
Oh man, after 10 years though, man.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like, it's a new game. Like you can't be like, oh well, because like let's say there was a 10-year-old who didn't play GTA, but now they're a 20-year-old who's waiting for 6. Or 5, and now they're waiting for 6. So now they're 20. They didn't play when they were 10. And so the people that were 20 back then are 30 now. You have these fucking sweaty 30-year-olds who have a billion G-Bucks, and they have every fucking thing in the game, and then you want them to just transfer it over into 6 and just ruin the economy? That's not fun.
You're not wrong, but this is a problem that I've seen with live service games that I do want to see somebody try to fix in a way.
If you, but the thing is, if you still like GTA 5 and you think that you're a powerhouse, go enjoy GTA 5. We'll all be playing 6.
I guess that's fair. Yeah.
Because where are we at in Destiny? You didn't want to give up your characters in Destiny, but you did, and now you're better than ever, you know?
Yeah, but here's the thing is in Destiny, you know, I was what, 3 or 4, we were like 4 years into Destiny 1, and then we had to make a switch. If Bungie asks me in 3 years, you got to move to Destiny 3, that's going to be a tough bullet to buy for me, man. That's going to be really tough. Like having all that investment, and if it's just completely like wipe it clean.
The thing is, I agree with you to a certain degree, but let me give you a little bit of a different perspective. You're playing a single player game. You invest 100 hours into it. Or what's your average one? Because that's like Tears of the Kingdom numbers. Let's say 20-30 hours, a good one.
Yeah, 20-30 hours. Yeah,
20-30 hours you put into it. When the new one comes out, you don't go, oh, well, why is my character not overpowered anymore? You know, like you still have that game you can go back to if you think that. I don't know, there's just something, like, if you want to go back to Destiny 1 even, you still can. If you want to go back to Destiny 2, if Destiny 3 comes out, you still can, I'm sure. And so I think it's just a matter of moving on. And if you don't like it, you can show by not playing it. And if the masses don't like it, then maybe they'll start to change Destiny 3 in that case, and GTA 6 in this case. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know, man. See, this is why I say it's kind of like an unsolved problem. Is I don't know, because you're not wrong, obviously, you know, but I do feel like there has to be some sort of, with these live service games, I feel like there needs to be some sort of linear progression through all of the live service titles. That's the case. Like if Destiny 3 comes out and they're like, hey, you're getting rid of all your vaults, essentially, I honestly would be like, okay, I get it. You have to start with new weapons, armor, all that kind of stuff. That bugs me less, but I would want to, like, essentially have some sort of lineage that carries over with me. It's really dumb because it's almost like just, I want my big number of like triumph score and titles and all that kind of stuff.
That's fine. I think that's totally fine. But anything that messes with the game's core mechanics, like I really don't know what they're called, but the G-Bucks, the money in the game.
G-Bucks.
I don't know what they're called.
I'm just going to call every game, you know, if it's like Diablo, it's the D-Bucks.
Yeah, right. So whatever. So if your economy is suffering, if you give the fucking no life 12-year-old that's been playing GTA for fucking 6 years, and he has a bajillion G-Bucks, and that's ruining the economy. But if you let him carry over his Rockstar account, which we all have to fucking make these accounts anyway, if you let him carry over his Rockstar account, give him a title, give him a thing, give him a something. Hey, I'm a veteran GTA 5 player. I mean, just in the same as that's what kind of pissed me off. That is one thing that pissed me off about Destiny 1 to 2 is I got Movie of the Week title. I had that title in Destiny 1, and I don't get to carry that over. Like, that's dumb. That kind of pissed me off.
I think that's maybe vanity stuff I want to always carry over. If I can at least get that, I can bite the bullet on, hey, all your cars and your weapons aren't going to come over or something like that. Like I could bite the bullet. And
why would they? It's a new game. I understand. Like I get it. Like whenever I start a new Minecraft server, I'm like, damn, I had everything. Whenever I start a new Ark server, I'm like, damn, I had everything. But I've started a new Ark server and a new Minecraft server like 8 times. Valheim, I've started it like 10 times. It was like 4 times. But still, I've started these games over and over again. And of course I didn't want to, but those aren't even new games. Like, it's not like Valheim 2. It's not Minecraft 2. I just started over because I did. You know, of course I want to keep all my stuff, but sometimes if you move on, I think you can just rip that Band-Aid off and be fine with it.
I guess we'll see.
Because I'm very interested. Because everyone complained about Destiny 2. Everyone complained about their characters not transferring over, but 0 of those people are still complaining. 0.
I'm still complaining.
You are not.
No. Obviously, I'm the resident Destiny 2 apologist. So and we
respect you for that.
Thank you. I'm glad I get some respect
Twitter might not respect you, but I
Twitter
do.
doesn't respect me for anything, but at least I get respect here in the House of Damage check. Yeah, I'm very interested to see what happens. It'll be the first
picture of it.
Live service game from that era, I feel like, to go as long and kind of try to make this transfer happen. So I'm very interested to see how they handle it.
I think it'll be. I mean, I think it'll be just fine. I mean, it's GTA. They've always succeeded. I think their worst one multiplayer wise was 4, but then it ended up being like the best storyline wise. And then GTA 5 was just kind of a culmination of all the good stuff.
Yeah.
Besides maybe hidden packages, do we have that kind of stuff? Do we have secrets in GTA 5? Like that at least?
We did, and then GTA Online like blew up, and they're like, we're not doing any more like single player secret stuff. It's just GTA Online now.
Right. I mean, that's a good move because it's fun. It's good.
Yeah, it's good. It makes them a lot of money. I'm sure they're very happy with the return on investment of a 10-year-old, probably 11, 12-year-old game by the time the next one comes out.
I think, to summarize my whole thoughts on GTA 6, I think the biggest selling point is just going to be cooperativeness. I think being able to play with your friends, not necessarily just online matches and stuff like that, but just being able to play with your friends. Heists, so you got like the Destiny feeling, the raids, kind of like heists were amazing. Give me more of those. Missions are amazing. Yeah. Give me more of those. Anything, flight simulator missions or something. Like give me things that feel different, because that's kind of GTA's beauty, right? Is that you can do anything. Like if you get in a car, it does not feel like you're playing the same game as when you're walking around on foot. If you get into a plane, it does not feel like the same game. And then you start messing around with your friends and you get hit by a train while you're in a fire truck and somebody's picking you up on a helicopter, and you got tanks everywhere. Like it can get crazy quickly, and nothing ever really feels the same. So I think that just let me have fun with my friends. Let me go play poker with my friends. Let me go play, like in Red Dead. They didn't let you play Liar's Dice. Like I learned how to play Liar's Dice from Red Dead. Me and my friends went and played that in person. Like we literally got like 8 stacks, or every person, like there's 8 of us, and we had like 8, like 50 something sets of dice, and we're all rolling dice playing it because we learned from Red Dead how to play this game and we loved it. And then they're like, yeah, there's no multiplayer or there's no co-op or whatever. It's like, why? And then they finally unleashed it with released it with like Undead Nightmare or whatever. But that's all I think is GTA 6 needs, is just cooperative play.
That's my last question then for you, is because of historically the online's now releasing kind of later, this is day and date online, obviously, right?
Oh, 100%.
Like it has to be. Okay, cool.
Especially with how successful GTA 5's online is.
Yeah, I feel like they can't do this like, oh yeah, it'll come in like 4 months. Is like,
no way. That's saying that day and date. Same thing, in my opinion, with the PC launch. They've notoriously not done that. They even said Red Dead 2, the liars. They said Red Dead 2 was never coming to PC. And where is it now? It's on PC. So,
yep.
I mean, hopefully they don't make that same mistake and give us, unless they have some deal with Microsoft or Sony under the table that we don't know about. Hopefully they don't do that and they just push them all back to whatever the latest date they need to. Because I'm not trying to watch every kid on PS5 and Xbox 7 or whatever that's called to play these games for 4 months before I get to see them myself. So,
agreed.
Yeah, that's all I got.
That's all I got.
Awesome! What a good one.
Mm-hmm. This has been a good damage check on the industry. I got to figure out a segue for that.
I know, I love that. I love that. But next week we're looking forward to, we're going to be seeing the nominees. So definitely tune in next week, because we got the nominees. We're going to go through every single category. I don't care how many they are. We're going to go through all of them.
I think there's like 26 or something. Not that many. We'll be fine.
So we're going to go through every category next week, and then also we're going to be talking about Mario RPG because it releases on Friday. I will play it on Friday on stream, and then we'll talk about it on Saturday, as well as the nominees. And there's a couple other things, but we'll kind of keep that under wraps, and we'll type up a little thing to talk about. But between those two things, I think we'll have plenty to talk about next week. So
yeah, Keep an eye out if we need to say anything. We'll probably say it on our socials. So keep an eye out on like HP social or my social. And yeah, we'll go from there.
Yep. All right.
Alrighty.
See you guys.
See you guys.